struck here close to home in Joplin tornado. He helped with recovery efforts there, conducting search and rescue missions, and did post-tornado recovery missions in Wichita, Kansas, and Harveyville, Kansas. He's a graduate of Kansas State University, go Wildcats, with a degree in political science. I got that for you. They go Wildcats. His brother is a former Kansas State University football player and an NFL tight end. His name's Travis. You might have heard of him. Our speaker's a lifelong Republican, committed to the defense of life and our Second Amendment rights. And he has got a crucible that was forged when he was serving overseas by seeing where those individuals are deprived of those rights by dictators, and he has become a very passionate defender of the Second Amendment for sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to have you welcome our next speaker, candidate for 2nd Congressional District, Tyler Tannehill.
First of all, thank you guys for having me tonight. So that bio pretty much summed up 5 minutes of my speech. So thank you. No, first of all, thanks to my wife, Louisa. She's here tonight. We have a young son, Zaven. My mother-in-law is watching him. So anybody who's run for office knows it's definitely a family affair. You don't get a lot of time at home, so thank you for my wife for dealing with me. Coming back late, eating a lot of pizza from Casey's. And as she claims, I don't quite look the same as I did when we first started dating. So, I'll remember that one. So yeah, at 17, I signed up for the Marine Corps Infantry. I was the easiest recruit the Marine Corps ever had. Took my ASVAB. They're like, what job do you want to do? Take a pick. I said, infantry. I'm going to want to miss the war. Joke was on me. I probably could have gone to college, got my PhD, and still gone overseas. We're still there today. At 19 years old, I was in northeastern Afghanistan, saw action in the Torngal Valley. If you've seen the documentary Restrepo on Netflix, they filmed that after I left, and they were lucky because they had patrol bases set up. We just walked through the mountains and got shot at. After that, I was 20 years old in Iraq, and right outside of Haditha. Had some fun there for a little while, and then decided to get out and go to school. I did go to Kansas State, had a great time there as a student government. Started getting involved with politics, interned for Senator Moran, ended up meeting my wife there. But most importantly, unfortunately, more of my friends died from suicide after we got out than died overseas for the lack of health care at the VA. That's how this all got started for me. I kind of said, who's going to help out? Nobody was. And I kind of looked at myself in the mirror, which sounds cliche, and I was like, I can get up, I can talk in front of people, I can knock on doors, let's fix it. One trip led to many. I spent a lot of time in college, basically in DC. I don't know. My professors were always great and really worked well with me being a political science major, kind of getting to do the wonderful things I got to do. I can tell you Nancy Pelosi in person looks a lot worse than she does on TV. Senator Sanders is probably the weirdest individual I've ever met in my life. He looked like he stuck his finger in an outlet. At least he combs his hair now. And Michelle Obama has the softest hands of any human being I've ever shook my hands up. So those are my 3 little knocks on people, so have some fun a little bit, right? No, when we got up there, we got to do a lot of fun stuff that was very worthwhile. We got a lot of bills passed. Most of it was just starting a dialogue. People didn't realize what was happening with my generation of veterans. They didn't realize about the wait times. They didn't realize about the backlog. The VA was stuck in an outdated system. There's a lot of veterans here. So you guys have all experienced it firsthand. I get my care at the VA. The first time I walked in Leavenworth VA in 2008, it was a lot better than the DoD healthcare because they told us, here's some Motrin and some water, have fun. So I thought it was the greatest healthcare system in the world. I then got a private sector job and found out what real health insurance is and what a real hospital is. And ever since then, I've been a very hard critic of the VA healthcare system. I just toured the Leavenworth VA, the Lawrence Annex, and then the Topeka VA facilities 2 weeks ago. The technology's outdated, they need redone, they need work. And my opinion, and it will be a passion of mine when I get to DC, hopefully, I am a fan of the VA Choice Program, not to bore you guys with some stuff, but if you like the VA healthcare, by all means, keep it, go at it. I don't want to go there. I'd like to turn the VA more into a healthcare provider and more of an insurance. I want to have an option where I get my healthcare. That's what it's all about. Down in Parsons, Kansas, talked to some veterans. They still have to go to Wichita. And their question to me was, why do I have to go to Wichita to see a doctor at the VA hospital when we have a perfectly good hospital right down the road? That's what the VA Choice Program does. It gives you the option to go to whatever hospital you want, get the care you want, the provider you want, get quality care. But again, if you like the VA experience, by all means, I don't want to change that. Keep at it. Veterans issues, though, is not just all I care about. I see you're giving away a gun. I also kind of gave away a gun. I need to add CNN on the list of news organizations, I guess. We decided to make a splash at the Republican convention in Wichita and give away an AR-15. Fortunately, the incidents in Florida did happen the next day, so I got a call from my wife as I was picking up these massive AR-15 giveaway posters to tell me that was happening in Florida. I could have backed away, but I believe in the Second Amendment. I don't believe restricting an AR-15. I don't believe taking away Second Amendment rights is going to change what happened in Florida. So we found a group that was called Freedom Saves Lives. Basically what that does is it trains teachers in a specific concealed carry course that if they want to carry in the classroom, it allows them to. I'm not saying every teacher needs to or should. My wife is in academia. I've been shooting with her. She should not carry a gun in the classroom. If I was a teacher, by all means, I would have all the training I think you could possibly have on how to engage a firearm. If something happened in a school, I shouldn't be able to throw rocks or books at somebody. My sister-in-law is a teacher, and I asked her what her policy was in her school, and they turn the lights off, shut the door, and first graders throw books at a shooter. So that is not a realistic solution. I am okay with the conversation of looking at metal detectors in schools. I am. We live in a world that's a lot different than a lot of us grew up in. Even when I did, the thought of somebody shooting up a school really wasn't around when I was in school. It wasn't that long ago. Columbine happened, which was kind of this incident that kind of shocked everybody, but now it's becoming a lot more prevalent. So let's have that discussion. That was kind of my biggest thing when I was getting on TV. That was frustrating. Kind of all the snapshots they would say was, yeah, I'm tired of town, I'm running for Congress, I believe in the Second Amendment, I'm giving away AR-15, and then they'd cut my segment. They missed the 10-minute conversation about, let's sit down, let's protect the Second Amendment, and let's see how we can keep our teachers and students safe, because the sticker on the window is not working. I don't think I need to preach to you guys. You guys all are Second Amendment supporters, right? I assume. So we can. But if you give away a gun, just be ready to go on CNN and get yelled at by people. So. My other issues I'm really passionate about, obviously, veterans, Second Amendment, balanced budget amendment has to happen. It just blows my mind of why you can't run your finances in a country like my wife and I have to run our finances. It doesn't seem like it's out of whack. It doesn't seem like it's a hard thing to ask. We have to get that done. And for so long now, people have been running saying we're going to repeal Obamacare, we're going to balance the budget, we're going to change our tax code. As long as I can remember, those are kind of the big three that people run on, and we've got one of the three down. So I'm sick and tired of people saying they're going to do stuff, going to D.C., and not doing it. So that's one reason why I entered this race. I'm not here to stay up in D.C. for 15, 20 years. That's not me. I like Kansas. I already spent my time away from there in the Marine Corps. I'd like to stay here, be with my family. But when I looked at the field, when I saw what Paul Davis was doing, I didn't want to vote for anybody who was in the primary field. So I said, same thing I thought with veterans. Looked in the mirror and said, let's do it. I think we've done a really good job. First time candidate, 3 months in. We currently have the lead in the polls right now. So we're transitioning from phase 1 to phase 2. I'm looking forward to knocking on every single one of your doors. So I have a great pair of tennis shoes that are going to get worn out. We're staffing up. We're ready to go. So I will field questions now. That's kind of the brief down and dirty of me and my bio. So any other questions? Yes, ma'am. You can go first.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, every member of the Kansas delegation except Kevin Doe voted for the recent budget on the West bill. How would you vote?
I would vote no. Is it 1.4 was the final number, 1.3?
1.4.
4 is the final number?
7 and 7.
In the back, yes, sir.
Tyler, what specifically differentiates you from the positions of all the other primary candidates on right to life and school funding?
So of the candidates running, I think there's a lot of similarities between us, except for one. I'm not going to name names, but I think he might be speaking here next month. So we're very similar. Right to life, 100% pro-life. There's no question in my mind that I believe at conception the child, that's a gift of God, and that should not be messed with. On the back end, a lot of people think about abortion, but you look at assisted suicide, completely against the assisted suicide aspect of the right to life. It's something that I'm very passionate about on that end of things, as well as the abortion aspect. School funding. I think schools are important. They do need to be funded, but when you look at the numbers, I believe it was $1,000 more per student in Kansas than in the nation goes towards students. So it has to be a valued investment for your dollar. If we're going to be giving that money, we better be seeing the returns, and we're not. So what's the issue? Is it paying administrators too much? Are the facilities getting drastically out of hand for cost? What's the issue? But I definitely believe it's a state issue. I'm big on that with education in the state.
Recently on the news, there's a caravan coming out of Mexico loaded with illegal. How do you feel about illegal immigration, and what laws do we need to change to make it stop?
Thank you for the softball question, because my wife's a legal immigrant, so I have a very good perspective on that, and I love legal immigrants because my wife is one. My wife immigrated here when she was a young child from what was the Soviet Union, present-day Ukraine. It's not the story of you legally immigrate here and become millionaires, but it's the great story of you immigrate here, you work hard, learn English, and your children will have a better life in America than they would where you came from. And that's what my in-laws did. They gave up everything, so my wife is almost done with her PhD. Her brother-in-law is a counselor in Orange County, which he can stay out there and fix all their problems. But he's a nice guy. Sorry, back to your question though. I am 100% for legal immigration as long as people come here and want to adapt to our culture while still keeping theirs alive. Because if you think about where I immigrated from, my family came from Ireland. We're so diluted. We came back in the 1700s. We don't have any of our traditions left. I go to my in-laws' house, though. They still keep the traditions, but they have the American flag hanging outside their door. They speak fluent English. They go to work every day, and they pay their taxes. So that needs to happen. I think there's two parts to that question. So I would like to strengthen legal immigration. And the American dream, people say the American dream is dead. We have some work to do, but it's still alive. My family and I, my wife and I, adopt a strong word, but we sponsored an Iraqi interpreter. He stepped on an IED and became fully blind. And his whole goal was to be an interpreter for the American forces in Afghanistan to come to America for his children. And you shouldn't have to step on an IED, go fully blind, like the French, French by blood. If anyone knows about French Foreign Legion, if you get shot as a French Foreign Legion soldier, you automatically get French citizen. Shouldn't have to do that, but he did. And I was talking to, hey, Fareed, what do you think of America? And he's like, it was worth it, because I'll never see America, but my feet are on American soil, and my kids will grow up in America, so I'd do it all over again. That passion's still alive. That's there. We need to help those people come here legally. Back to your second part of your question, I'm all for the wall, because you can't leave the door open and fix your legal immigration without first fixing your illegal immigration. So.
Everyone that knows me knows that I'm a huge strategy person. So let's say that it is now September, and congratulations, you are our nominee. I can guarantee you, you're the guy that raffled off the AR-15 3 days after Parkland. David Hogg comes down here and says, Tyler Tannehill is the reason my classmates are dead. How are you going to handle that? Because, you could probably agree that if you win the nomination, that is going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to get brought up, and first of all, we gave it away the day before, not 3 days after, which is a nice spin that they like to do when I was interviewing them. Like, you're a horrible person. You gave away a gun the day after. We did the day before. Honestly, I believe in the Second Amendment. I'm not going to falter on my views. There's a clear red line in the sand for me. I'm not going to go on the other side of it. When they bring it up, I'm going to do exactly what I did when I was on CNN, when I was talking to newspapers. I'm Tyler Tannehill. I believe in the Second Amendment. Do I think our children and teachers need protected? Absolutely. Let's sit down, have a dialogue that protects the Second Amendment, because the sticker's not working. That's my answer.
No need to apologize.
Yeah, don't apologize.
Yep.
So you keep telling us the way you feel about certain issues, but do you have any actual plans for withdrawing office?
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I didn't know I kept saying I feel, so thank you. Certain plans, when you look at DC, I'll be honest with you guys, I would love to say day one I'm going to hit the ground running. you have to build your reputation up in your committee. You have to do that. You don't even know what committee you're going to get assigned to. That's just how DC works. It's unfortunate nature of the beast. What you can do though, day one, is how you vote. And I believe your feelings and your passion can dictate how you vote. And I would love to say, let's go write every law we can out of committee and change this, get the balanced budget amendment going. I would work as hard as I can to do it. But you're going to have some time. You're going to have to earn your stripes in DC. Any one of us candidates running is going to have to do that. This is the reality of DC. Specific plans. I think immigration is going to be dealt with before we get to DC this next year. I really do. We look at the balanced budget amendment. That's just going to come down to getting with your fellow Republicans who believe in a balanced budget amendment, getting together and saying, enough is enough, let's do this, let's get together and make this happen. You have to be able to work with people. Within the Republican Party, you guys would be shocked at the factions that do happen in DC, even within the Republican Party. You have to be able to sit down with those people to get things done. Yep.
Actually, sort of piggyback on this question a different way. Do you conflict plans for your educational home? Because for me as a student, I'm seeing my tuition go up 4% this week. And it's a position where I can't go to college when I want to go to. This tuition is too expensive because I can't pay out the loans that I need without putting on crushing debt. Give me specific proposals to how a college students like me would afford to go to college without adding another impediment to the U.S. This government system.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the loan forgiveness program. I'm just not. People who go to college are adults. I was 17 when I signed up for the Marine Corps. You sign your name on a dotted line that says you're taking a loan out. You're responsible for that money. But college is too expensive. That's the root of the problem. So I think it's up to getting away from the big Department of Education in DC and having that happen in Topeka or whatever state government, saying, how do we get this education thing under control? So that's the core of the issue, is getting it away from DC back into Topeka. But do I have an actual specific 5-point plan? I don't. No. Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you're working on the illegal system, then some of the illegals wouldn't get their education for free, and our own people could get it.
Yeah, so I get, that's
You could use
absolutely.
that.
The whole idea that in-state tuition for illegals and stuff, it doesn't make sense at all. When you just say it out loud, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. So that alone, I don't know if you scored out if you took away the in-state tuition for legal how much money we'd save. I don't know off the top of my head. But the cost saving can be passed on to someone like yourself. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I'm probably going to be bored with 2 questions all night, but would you look at making budget for colleges and other schools mandated reporters of people that are just illegal immigrants? Because I actually work in immigration, so everyone's not going to understand all this stuff. But I actually know that we had a situation where we suggested, we thought this one was an immigrant, and so we didn't ask them any questions about citizenship or anything like that, because we thought we were probably illegal. Do you think that making colleges be mandated reporters the same way that employers are pushing in employers, do you think that's going to fix any of the problems?
I think it needs to happen. You've used the word illegal, and if someone's on campus doing something illegal, can you report them?
Yeah, but
So you should be able, my point is you should be able to do that then for an illegal immigrant who enrolls in school.
You know what I mean? If I were giving a job at McDonald's and they think that I'm illegal, they're supposed to report that. Would you make it to where schools now have to use E-Verify or whatever it's called on their students?
Yeah, I'd be in support of that, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir?
More likely Democrat
I think we can bet on that one, yeah.
What do you see being his greatest strength and his greatest weakness in the campaign?
Yeah, I think his greatest strength is going to be his money that he has. Paul Davis's biggest strength, biggest weakness. His biggest strength is going to be the money he has. The closer we get, as soon as we have somebody who's pulling above 25% in the race, tag ads are coming. That's just what's going to happen, and he's going to be able to do it long before we are. Everybody knows financing is really tight right now in the 2nd District. Everyone sees the finance reports. I think everyone's just waiting for that candidate to pull ahead, and that's what we're planning on doing. But so the day before, Connor Lamb won in Pennsylvania, And then we had a forum in Washburn. In my closing remarks, I said, hey, we know exactly what Paul Davis is going to do. He's going to run the Connor Lamb strategy. Next day in the Kansas City Star, Paul Davis, we're going to run the Connor Lamb strategy. We know the game he's going to play. We already know how it's played out. We know how we can beat it. The difference between him and Connor Lamb is Paul Davis has a voting record. He has a governor's race. And he has a House race. So we have that opposition research on him, which is his greatest weakness. He's running. He really wants to be an elected official, and whether it's me or somebody else, we need to just end that guy's desire to be a Kansas elected official once and for all. But like I said, his voting record is going to be his biggest weakness. When you look at some of his abortion votes, they're just not like, oh yeah, I'm kind of pro-child. He's pretty extreme on almost all of his views on that. I mean, sex-chosen abortion, you don't you want to have a girl and your wife says, hey, I'm pregnant, it's a boy. That's just, I can't even fathom that, so. Yes, sir.
Would the Democrat Connor Lamb ever make it through a Democrat primary?
Did he? He was unopposed, I believe.
Yeah.
Can someone correct me?
Yeah, he was selected.
Yeah.
Yeah, but would he have ever gone through a primary? Because he was a pretty conservative guy.
I don't know the district well enough up there in Pennsylvania. I mean, obviously there's the big steel issue up there.
He's a military lawyer.
Yeah. And
I don't see Davis as a military anything.
he is a lawyer, though. So. No, I mean, there is differences, but, if he's going to try to run that race, we can combat it. Going once? All right, thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
We're doing very well on time, so I can speak a little slower. They made themselves known, and I will take this opportunity to comment about some of our guests here with us tonight. I got the name MD. He graduated from Wellville High School, and he went on to earn a Bachelor of Science in Education degree from the University of Kansas. He later earned a Master's of Ministry degree from Southwestern Christian University, during which he was ordained, and he then pastored at 2 Wichita area churches. But that was during the time when the 9/11 attacks happened. He also felt the passion and call for service to defend our great nation. So he joined the Army in 2004 and became a Green Beret. He graduated at the top of his class in Army's Airborne, Jump Master, Ranger, Special Operations, Combat Medic, and Special Forces Qualification Schools. I served for 25 years in the Army. I never did a single one of those schools. I don't know what it takes to graduate at the top of those. But they are very elite schools. So that's saying something to graduate at the top of your class, top half. I mean, they have a very significant withdrawal rate from Ranger School and Special Forces Q course. So after that, he served in the sands of Iraq, but during his downtime, he was trying to connect with his kids. So he ended up writing a children's book for his young family, which led to him becoming a successful published author. He returned home, and he and his wife decided to make their family even larger, so he left the Army so he'd be there to help that process along. And now they're raising a family of 7 in Willville, too. This particular speaker has been elected to 2 terms in the Willville Area School District Board of Education, where he's still serving now. He serves on the Franklin County Planning Commission, and in 2012, he defeated a 9-term Democratic representative up there in the 5th House District, where he now serves as the representative for the 5th House District. So it is my pleasure to welcome our next speaker, Representative Kevin Jones.
Wow, I appreciate that. I got a quick question for you, and I don't want anybody to answer. I just want you to lift your hand if you know the answer. So this is a quote, and if you know who said this, I want you to lift your hand, okay? Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. How many people know who said that? I got some of the constitutionalists over here going, I don't know what this is. We got about 7 or 8 people. That is, somebody said, call it out. John Adams, very good. It's John Adams, one of our founding fathers. And I'm going to read it again. Our Constitution was made only for moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. And the reason I want to bring that to you guys today is that, and this is why I'm running, truthfully, we have a battle going on. It's been going on for a while, but we have a battle going on over our faith, over our family, and over our freedom. Is that not happening? It's happening at every level. It's happening locally. It's happening in our families. It's happening through media, through Hollywood and whatnot. But it is going all the way up and into our federal government. And we're seeing it with the policies. We're seeing it with the things that are happening in our federal government. This is why my wife and I made the decision to run for United States Congress in the 2nd District. And so I want to thank you guys for the opportunity. I've been looking forward to speaking here. I know a lot of you guys haven't been in the Kansas House now for 6 years. This is my 6th year. I've got to meet and talk to a lot of you guys through some of the veteran stuff. I've got to be with a lot. How many veterans are here too? And how many families of veterans? Yeah, exactly. I appreciate you guys so much. And so it's one of the things when we were getting ready to run, and again, you said the bio. You guys have the bio in front of you too. You can read some of the stuff that we're about. But I go back to that story of when 9/11 happened. We were pastoring at the time, my wife and I. And when the first plane hit, we never turned on the TV. We just happened to turn on the TV that morning, and when that first plane hit, man, the world spins. All of us kind of know what we were doing and where we were at. We'd only been married for a month. I mean, we weren't married for very long. And then we had to go to a pastor's retreat. We headed to the pastor's retreat, and we flipped on the radio, and as the radio was going, the commentator said a cuss word. And you never hear that, you know. And we were like, what's going on? And that's when his voice broke, and he comes back on, and he said that the first building had fallen. And I still look back. I still remember, because we pulled over and we prayed, but my wife and I, we wanted to be a part of the help. We wanted to be able to go and help in that instant. And that same battle that's going on there, this battle over our faith, family, and freedom, we want to be a part of the answer. We want to be a part of the help. So that's why our heart is truly drawn to actually be a part of that service. And truthfully, I said it in my video, I say it all the time, this is a battle we cannot fail at. It's a battle that we cannot fail at. And so I hope that you will get behind us as we passionately pursue this battle, and because we cannot fail. So we've talked about Paul Davis, talked about a lot of different things that we have to defeat, but yeah, we cannot fail for our faith, for our family, or for our freedom. So that said, I want to talk just a little bit. Somebody had asked, there's different things, especially happen at the state level. I want you guys to be able to ask questions about state level, federal level stuff, local level stuff, because I'm on a school board. But under the faith right now, we see it. One of the things that drives me crazy is just taking the 10 Commandments and just pulling it out. Prayer in schools, pulling it out. All of these different items that are being pulled out. But the one place that it hits home, and I have to say is, and I've got a story for it. It's lawlessness. We're just seeing lawlessness across the board. There's a kid, and I was at a football game in it's Wellsville, by the way. It's not Wellville, it's Wellsville. I think there is a Wellville, but I don't know where it's at. There's a Wellington, and that always gets confusing. Wellsville. So I was at a Wellsville football game, and there's this kid, and I was down under the bleachers, and there's this kid, and I just heard this real loud sound, and he's running, and he's jumping on the chain link fence, right? Jumping on the chain link fence. And you're like, what? It's right at the corner, and he's jumping up, grabbing it, and just kicking it. And I'm like, what in the world? He'd do it, and jump on it again, and he'd back off, and he'd go over to his buddies and the girls that were over there. And I was like, okay, whatever, you know. Then he does it again. And then he does it again. And I'm like, what in the world? And it's starting to bow. The fence is starting to bow a little bit. So what do you think? What do you think we're supposed to do in that moment?
Take action.
Take action, okay? Well, I'm not his parents, and I'm not police, I'm not a teacher. Who am I to be able to take action? Now, and this goes back to something we teach our children.
Taxpayer.
Boom. You got it, okay? Yeah, I own that fence, man. We own that fence, right? So, but here's the deal. It goes back to something even further. It goes back to authority and understanding authority. Plain and simple. It goes back to the family. It really does. I teach my kids something. And I hope that we all do. But we teach our kids, I teach my kids to call people and put authority and put honor where honor is due. So if you're an adult male, they say Mr., or they say Mrs., they say Sir, they say Ma'am. Why would I do that? Because they need to understand that there's authority there. Because if they don't understand authority, well, then you get kids that are calling teachers by their first name. That's what you get. And then you get a nation of kids and people who don't understand authority. And then you start seeing lawlessness. What in the world? So then we start seeing lawlessness. Well, how does lawlessness now affect us? Well, how about this? In Kansas, we have 6 sanctuary counties. Those are counties that say, man, we don't really care about your law. We're just going to do our own thing. Or, and across the nation, 500 sanctuary cities. But what's worse than that is that now, even a previous speaker was talking about in-state tuition for illegals. I literally brought a bill, and thank you for somebody who was actually calling it illegal. Calling illegal what is illegal. But I'll tell you this, in that court or in that hearing, if you would have said undocumented or if you would have said illegal, I'll tell you what. And yeah, exactly. Politically correct. What's that?
I said, weren't you guys getting called?
Oh, are you kidding me? Yes, absolutely. The bill was it was a bill, it was an idea, and it is, the numbers are give or take right around 200,000 to 300,000. It's not as much as what people think, but you got in-state tuition for illegals, but it's all spread about colleges. Most of it's in the junior colleges. People don't understand that, but there's not a straight across way to take money and put it into. I was trying to put it toward folks that are coming out of our foster system, because our foster system, it's miserable. It's dismal to see the kids that are coming out of our foster system and not actually accomplishing what they need in secondary education. That all said, what it really comes down to is it comes down to lawlessness. It comes down to us not obeying laws. It comes down to our young people not obeying laws and just ignoring laws. And so this is something, especially with we need to defund sanctuary cities. We need to get rid of lawlessness, but it's gonna take a whole group of us, and it's gonna take raising our families right. That leads into our families. And when it comes to families, I'll just be real honest. I'll be straightforward with you. First and foremost, I'm pro-life. Hey, you can look at the picture on the back of my thing. We have 7 children. We have one on the way due in June, and we're passionately pro-life. This last funding bill, the one thing I at the federal level, the omnibus that funded $500 million goes to Planned Parenthood. On principle, I cannot vote for that. It's not like I can say, okay, you do this and do that, and you'll give me all this defense spending, but you got to fund Planned Parenthood. I can't do that, and so and I can't do that with your tax dollars. I believe that that's completely wrong, and so yeah. With that, on family, we were in Lawrence, and we never go to McDonald's. We went to McDonald's, parked. We're getting out, and as we're walking across the parking lot, you can imagine 7 kids, ranging from 13 down. It's like, bleh, they go everywhere. So I always make them stay right by the van. And then, as they're coming around, they're going through the window. They're getting their food and going to the window, coming around the drive-thru. As they were coming around, they would zip through there. You can't really see very well. And immediately in my mind, and at the time in the Kansas House, we were dealing with the conceal and carry stuff and EH for conceal and carry and whatnot. And I just thought how important it is for us to be able to not just protect ourselves, but man, when you got kids, you start thinking about protecting your loved ones and those around you. And I just realized as those cars are zipping through there, and I have all these kids that are running on this, how it's on me. Now, I truly believe that God can use anybody to protect my kids, but I believe that it's wisdom for me to protect my kids. So when it comes to the Second Amendment, I believe very, very important. If you're old enough to be married, you should be old enough to conceal and carry. You should be old enough to constitutional carry, because that's a protection that is given to you by God. And this is one of the things that I'll be very passionate about in DC, is protecting those God-given rights that are yours. they're yours, and we have to protect them. Yeah, you can clap. That's if there's anything else that I'm really passionate about is protecting those constitutional God-given rights. The last thing on family is just repealing Obamacare. It's as simple as that. You know, Obamacare is one of the biggest drivers, and healthcare in general. Those costs are super high. They need to be reduced. We need to reduce our healthcare costs. And so, and that's how, with a family of, you can imagine, as big as my family is, healthcare, yeah, we've had broken arms, and we've had craniosynostosis, we've had a lot of crazy stuff, but healthcare is big. So then the last one is freedom. And when it comes to our freedoms, and actually it was mentioned a little bit earlier, is that, well, to live and move and have our being. To live and move and have our being. Something that I desire for people. This is what, if I get to DC, one of the things that it's not one of the things, it's what I'm about, is the opportunity is to help you experience abundant life. So each of us have the American dream, and the American dream is a potential for a better life, not one that's earned, or not one that's given, but one that's earned. That's what it is. So each of us kind of have an idea of what that is. It could be a business idea that you have, and you want to pursue it, but something is in the way, whether it's red tape or taxes or whatever it is, and it's taking all your funds to be able to kind of pursue that dream. That's my passion, is to help you experience an abundant life. That's my dream, is to help you. That's my mission, that's my service, and that's what I want to do. But the way that we really do that, balance the budget, it comes down to this culture of debt that we really have gotten ourselves under. And that again goes back to the family, it goes back to the way we're raised. The debt chokes out, I said literally. I heard somebody say that the other day, I was like, literally, it chokes out our opportunity. That's what it happens. And so when it comes to business, when it comes to our families, when it comes to healthcare and all the opportunities we have, it gets choked out because of the debt that we're under. Now, anybody know what our current national debt is? 21 trillion? Very good. Yeah, 21 trillion. What was it 6 months ago? 20. Exactly. 6 months, we've gone up $1 trillion. I don't know how that sets with you guys, but what it has to do, it truly has to do, is it has to stop. Plain and simple, it has to stop. Yeah, and people are laughing. We have big drivers. We do. We have Social Security, with Medicaid, Medicare, Obamacare. We have big drivers. But what's going to happen is we're going to have an honest discussion. Everybody kind of says that. My age has to realize we're going to pay in and not receive, plain and simple, on some stuff. You know, it's just how it is. It's going to be difficult, but if not, we're going to end up like Greece. We're going to end up taking up arms and stuff. So we've made promises. We need to keep our promises. But we also need to be honest with the generation hopefully those that are younger. If we understand authority, we will go, you know what? We're going to do our promises. But we realize for us, it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to have to work harder. We're going to have to make it up to be able to make up to those things. So I actually look forward to your questions. If I can answer any questions or anything you guys have, that would be my pleasure. State level or federal level. At the state level, right now, I'm on appropriations. I'm the current chair of the Kansas, it's the Higher Education Budget Committee. I'm also on K through 12. Budget Committee. Some of the answers that you were asking earlier goes back to K through 12 funding with Representative Schwab and with candidate Tannehill. So it goes back to K through 12 funding really well, and there's a lot of stuff going on right now. But questions? Yeah.
On the $1 trillion over the past 6 months, what is your opinion of why that happened?
Well, a lot of it comes down to defense spending. A lot of it comes down to defense spending, really. And defense spending is something that we really, really needed. You heard Donald Trump say, what did he say about this bill when he signed it?
He didn't want to do it.
Yeah, the only reason he signed it, didn't want to do it, we'll never do it again, right? But there's reasons. So I get, and I'll be, here's one of the things that I learned early on. I was in the State House, is that you always want to try and be a part of the answer, be a part of the solution. But the reason I said that about funding Planned Parenthood earlier is sometimes, like, I could bring an amendment and say, I want this out of there. But if not enough people are going to do it, then I can't be on that bill. So candidate Tannehill said I would not vote for that. I could not vote for that based on even just Planned Parenthood being in there. Now, you could have gotten into the IRS increase in spending, 300 million or something like 300 billion. It was a lot. IRS increase and different ones that are in there that are ridiculous spending.
Well, that's what the CRs are. CRs are just continuing. That's
Right.
what it stands for. So that's why it was already in there.
Right. And so, but and to answer your question, truthfully, is we all have pieces of government that we like and we expect, and ultimately we've got to be willing to let some of those things go, because the balance amendment, or to do a balanced budget amendment, is going to require a huge tax.
So you wouldn't have voted for it on just one issue, is that correct?
In this case, with that one issue, absolutely, I would not have voted for it. This is a principle thing, and it goes back to this. It goes back. I know, and some people don't. When it comes to what all of our delegation except Kevin Yoder voted for it, correct? But when it comes to, he did. Okay, all of them. That's what I thought when they said it. I was like, okay, yeah. So I thought the whole group voted for it. Now, and then we'll come out and we'll tout the different things. This is what politicians know. We'll talk the good things, but we won't talk about the bad things. But when it comes to Planned Parenthood and it comes to funding institutions like that, there's a line that you draw, and I believe that it's murder. I do. And when I was a pastor down by Tiller's Clinic, we were the closest church to Tiller's Clinic. And so I was able to counsel with young, I say counsel, we prayed with young ladies and there was counselors with them and things like that. But that said, I was faced with, is pieces of it okay? Is not. And when my daughter was born, thinking that some states in America allow murder, literally. I mean, my daughter wasn't, and then she was, but she was. For 9 months she was there. It's just, in my mind, it was surreal, and I could kind of talk it away. So anyway.
I think they passed something today about the Planned Parenthood, didn't they? To put it back to the states. Am I wrong?
I did not see that. Did anybody else see that?
Something.
I'll look it up.
Something went through today. I'm not sure what it was. I was hoping to do it.
No, I don't. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, kind of a follow-up to that. So that's even more distressing that Kevin Yoder went over. I did not know that. Your opinion, why? Would these folks who have stood here, right here, many of them, and said that they have the same values that we all do, why would they go to Washington, D.C. and go through that? In your opinion?
I have not spoken with any of them. I have not spoken with any of them. And what I believe that it comes down to is, and you see this in the State House too, it comes down to money, plain and simple. It comes down to money, and it comes down to kind of your allies, your groups. And when it comes to a big, huge funding bill, like an omnibus bill or a funding bill, there's a lot of pieces. And what you do is you weigh. And I've done it at the state level. You weigh what's important on both sides, and if you feel like it's better over here, then you vote that direction a lot of times. It's always easier to vote no. It really is. You want to be a part of the solution, but it's easier to vote no. And so in this case, there was something on this side that somehow outweighed the Planned Parenthood funding, and it's done it for years, hasn't it? We still fund Planned Parenthood. And so whatever it was, I'm telling you right now, on that one, I could not do it. Now, when it comes, I thought about it like with funding National Public Radio, right? 500 million or whatever it is. And I was like, you know what, for the defense spending, I might fund National Public Radio, right? But that's because I got the defense funding that I really wanted to get and that we really needed, And so in that case, yeah, I might be willing to offset it. But then there's some that, what's that? Not sanctity of life. I can't make that. So, but that's what you're getting. You get me? That's what you're getting. Yes, sir.
If you guys done budget, how would you ever pay off this $20 trillion?
Well, if we get to a balanced budget amendment, because the closest we have ever been to a balanced budget amendment was when Clinton was president, and so that's going to be a very, very, considering the deficit spending that we're currently at, to keep the things that we want, like defense. Which I didn't even talk too much about defense, but whether you've been to Ranger School, whether you're infantry, whatever it is, one of the things, if you're going to secure an area, I'm guessing this room is secure right now. Anybody else, you have that question? Yeah, right? Yeah, nobody has that question because we know that, probably the majority, maybe half, maybe more than that, are actually conceal and carry. So I am completely secure right now in this room, right? But then there's other places where where we put a sticker on the door and then we expect it to be secure. We hope it's secure. We don't have an idea where it's secure. We know we're secure right here, and that is so very important, not just for this room, but for our state and for our nation. And so the one thing that it starts with, obviously, is closing the borders. That's very important. But to get back to your question is, and I look at it like this when it comes to the border wall, $20 billion and that kind of thing. How can we actually continue to make spends, right? And balance our budget. That's the hard part, because there's things that every single person in here wants to do it. We have to do it. And you can do the whole budget stuff where you kind of play with it, and over years you get this much and that much and all this stuff, one-time spending and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately it's going to take us all being disciplined and stomaching some of the stuff like, okay, we'll do half the wall now or whatever we can afford. In the case of the wall, though, that's like $20 billion. What, total illegal immigration? It's like $100 billion a year that we deal. If we just got the wall built, I believe it'd pay for itself probably in a year or two. I really do. So I think that would be important to do. Yes, ma'am. You've been like,
I know that you didn't talk about this, but anytime someone brings up what I call the 3 F's, faith, family, and the experiential one, I think for me, some people freedom, some people it's friends, some people it's football. Which is why this comes to my mind. And almost every single school shooting, we notice that there's one consistency. It's not the gun, it's mental health. And oftentimes there were literally glaring warning signs, like what is it, the FBI had like 5 warnings and the Parkland police had like 30 warnings, and we see over and over again that it's mental health. So what are you going to do to advance mental health as a representative, because it's something that we've been lacking in. It's being more and more frequent.
You hit a soft spot, and I can talk to you for a long time on this. I currently represent Osawatomie State Hospital. It's in my district, and so when I say soft spot, when it comes to spending, this is a place where, oh man, everybody has kind of missed it a lot of times. So. Really, the law enforcement side of this is very, very important to me. But like, for instance, there's what's called a co-responder. Have you heard of like the co-responders that we have in Kansas? A co-responder is somebody who's trained in crisis intervention, and they'll ride out. They'll actually go out with. Okay, so you kind of know. They'll go out with the actual law enforcement, and so you can prevent or you can diagnose crisis right then and prevent actual incarceration. What's that? Keep them out of the system. So the more that you can do, and the reason I start with that is because, truthfully, if somebody can intervene at that moment, you're going to prevent, first of all, incarceration, things for that individual, but secondly, your increased costs across the state and just getting lost in the system. So I truly believe that is something that we need to start with. But then you can get into the crisis intervention, like different sites, and then ultimately, really what it comes down to is it comes down to a system that works. I've said from the get-go, since I've been up here, and I actually got a full concept of what we were dealing with mental health, is that this is one area that faith, family, freedom is only going up. Mental health is only, not just in the military world. It's not just the military world. It's across the board. When you're dealing with, and this is, listen, we've got umpteen $1 trillion in debt. If you want to find out why so many relationships don't last, it's because of a couple things: security and money. And so we're umpteen $1 trillion in debt. Mental health is only going to continue to go up. And when you're dealing with security, you want people to kind of get skittish and have anxiety, depression. Let them walk around with no security. It's exactly what's going to happen. So we're dealing with a whole culture where mental health is only going to continue to go up, and it just will. And so we have to be prepared, not only to combat it, but also willing to actually pay for it. And that's where ultimately that's going to be it's going to be part of it is actually paying for it. If you're going to start with local intervention. I mean, that's where it's going to happen. And they're talking now. I'm just saying at the state level, we're dealing with millions and millions of dollars going into actually putting psychologists and psychiatrists, whatever, into the schools, which I disagree with. We're trying to work it to where it'll be using the psychiatrists that are already out there and using those, yes, contracting and working with those guys to be able to touch the schools and reach them, rather than, the governor had talked about 130 new ones being in the schools. Yeah, I don't want anything to do with that. As a school board member, I don't want anything to do with that, but yeah, go for it.
You mentioned national prayer in your sort of construction. This is several parts of the question. Could you support mandating that out of federal law?
Did you say national prayer?
Or prayer in schools, sorry.
Oh, prayer in schools, yeah.
A couple parts of this question. Do you support federally mandating that in schools? If so, would there be protections for students who want to opt out or protections for teachers who want to opt out?
Interesting question. No, mandating prayer in schools. I think when it comes to actual faith, it's something that I can't pull that out of you when you go to school. You know what I mean? And when Thomas Jefferson wrote the letter to the Baptist church talking about separation of church and state, it was a clarification. Maybe you guys know more about it, but it was a clarification for the Baptist church and a protection for them to understand that, hey, this isn't about you and or about the church staying out of government, but the government staying out of the church. Like, get out. This is my belief. This is where I'm at. So if you take that at the school board level, and I graduated in '93 from Wellsville High School, and I'll never forget it, because at that time is when the administration was starting to stop us from doing prayers. So we were going to say a prayer at our graduation. Our school administrator, our actual superintendent, stopped us and said, you cannot do that. Actually, it's the principal, it wasn't the superintendent. He said, you cannot do that. We're like, what? And you know, we're all good kids, so we're going to obey authority. And we ended up praying outside, and we didn't do it actually inside. But from that point on, I haven't heard of a prayer at our football games. We haven't heard of it. Why do we do that? Why do we stop saying prayers? Any lawyers in the room? Because if one person gets upset that we prayed at a football game, they can sue us. That's it. That's really it. So it changes the whole culture and the whole nation just because one person could get upset and sue, and really it comes down to the money. So I'm not for mandating it, but the trouble is that I can't take it out. So I'm going to kind of transition to something we just have been dealing with at the State House, and that is really. It's the freedom of religion, but it has to do with Adoption Protection Act. And there's, right now, what we're dealing with is, Scott Schwab talked a little bit about it. We had a bill that, what it does, if you didn't know, is it protects adoption agencies that are faith-based. And those faith-based groups, like let's say Catholic charities, right? If somebody comes along and they're a same-sex couple and they want to adopt through that Catholic charity, the Catholic charity says, we can't do that because of their conscience, because of their beliefs, because of their system. They cannot do that. And so what they would do is they'd say, we can't do it, but you can go over to this agency. Well, they're like, well, we want to adopt from you. And then they can't do it, they sue, they can shut down that agency, right? So we're passing a bill, we're working on it right now, that essentially it protects that freedom of conscience. It protects that freedom of religion, the Catholic charities, and many, many other adoption agencies. My sister is also a legal immigrant, and she was adopted through a faith-based organization. And with that, that should be protected, because if the majority of the adoption agencies are faith-based agencies, and if that did happen, they could all be shut down. And then you'd have, a few, it would just destroy adoption, not just in Kansas, across the nation. So that's why that freedom of conscience is so very important, freedom of religion, faith-based organizations, that kind of thing. So. Other questions? Big questions? Tell me if I'm going too long. I look forward, I would love to get your vote, love to get your support, answer any of your questions. I have cards over here, and that look like this. And I don't know that my phone number is actually on that, but what I like to tell people is I'm always looking for anchors. When I go work out down at the school, our air conditioners are anchored to the ground, right? And we all know and we all hear that when you get up to D.C. that it's all kind of swamp and people are crazy and all this kind of stuff. But I figured if I have enough people who are home, who are anchors that will hold my feet to the ground, who will text me and say, "What are you doing? You said you'd never do this," or here's what you need to do. If I have enough people like that, then home's going to be there. You know what I mean? And we'll be able to, I just know with so many people who've gone there and said they're going to do one thing and don't do another, we need to keep that integrity. And so if you would, get one of those cards and be an anchor for us. So I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. Look forward to any other questions you have from the board. Thank you, guys.